Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. This is the December 6th, 2023 meeting of the Newcastle Planning Commission. I am the chair, Charlie Gadzik. Call this to order. City Clerk Westman, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Marsh.
Here, but do we do the flag salute first?
Oh,
Oh, gee whiz. Yes.
good catch.
Thank you. Flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here.
Commissioner Quigg.
Here.
Commissioner Dantzler.
Here.
Commissioner Lowe.
Here.
Commissioner Van Atta.
Here.
Vice Chair Kennard.
Vice Chair Kennard is here, and I will answer for him.
Present.
Oh, he can
There he
answer.
is.
We can hear him. Great.
And Chair Kazik.
Here. All right. You have the agenda in front of you. Does anybody have any modifications to make to the agenda? Seeing none, we will consider that approved, and we will move to the public comment period, which I'll open now. We have somebody in the audience here at City Hall. Is there anybody online? No.
Can you see that screen? You might see better than that.
Okay. Would anyone from the audience here in City Hall like to make a public comment? No? All right, we will close the public comment period then. Move to general business, which is a discussion of the survey. And let me propose to you how I think we should handle this. I'd like to just go down the row here and ask commissioners one by one to comment on the survey that they received in advance. I have received detailed comments from two and possibly, well, and three. I don't know how detailed yours are, Maggie, but I've received comments from three commissioners and a response from another commissioner. So you don't necessarily have to repeat everything you said, but I will give you the opportunity to say whatever you would like. And I will then give my comments at the end of that period of going through, letting each commissioner talk about it. Then I would like to ask a question, ask the commissioners about how they think, whether the downtown vision is adequately represented in the survey. And then I'd like to move to the survey implementation, how it's going to be distributed, how the timing, the postcard, that sort of thing. And I know we have Aaron Qualls with us, who can answer some questions for us. So that's how I intend to proceed. Okay. All right. So I'll just we'll go to my immediate left with Commissioner Marsh, and then we'll end with Commissioner Kennard before I comment.
Well, since I provided written comment earlier this week, I don't really have anything to add to that. I did have a chance to review Commissioner Dantzler's feedback, which I thought was very constructive and I thought very on point as well, very thoughtful. I guess I'm just curious to see what comes next now. So.
Wait, real quick before you move on. So, should we go through each one of his bullet points and say we agree, disagree? Like, how do we get what he suggested into the final form?
Why don't we handle it this way? If you disagree with them, address the disagreement. If you agree with it, why don't you assume that it will go into not the final form, but I think we should have one more look at this, which we can do by email. I should have said that I thought the comments from both Commissioner Dantzler and Commissioner Marsh were very good, and that I'm going to incorporate them into another version of the survey that I send to Aaron Qualls.
Okay.
And then together with what other input he receives from us tonight, I would ask him to send it back to us, and then we could have one last look by email. I think we could do that rather quickly.
Got it, okay, yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Yep.
Director Hoffman, do you see any problems with that process?
Not at all, but Aaron Qualls has his hand up.
Oh, well, let's recognize Aaron Qualls then. If,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If it's at all helpful, you forwarded me those comments, and I went ahead and in a track changes version incorporated them best I could. If you think it would be useful for me to bring it up on the screen so you can see what it would look like with those comments incorporated.
well, I did the same thing, so, I don't know, I think let's wait until after we go through the commissioner comments, and let me ponder that. I'm not worried about seeing yours, but I think maybe at some point, we would reconcile my version with your version, and maybe that might be handled more efficiently offline. And especially if we come across any opinion among commissioners that is counter to the comments that were submitted.
Very good.
All right. So Commissioner Quick.
We had a Newcastle Christmas tree lighting not long ago. It was kind of neat. Hundreds and hundreds of people there. Pretty cool tree. And I was pretty proud of it. I thought it was pretty nice. It's kind of the way I felt about the survey when I first saw it. I go, it's not bad, but I feel like we could, make it easier to understand and simplify it, maybe add a picture or two. Last night I got back from New York City after seeing the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree. That's how I felt when I saw the revised survey. I was like, holy cow, how much time did it go into this? It was amazing. I felt like all the 50 different ideas we had were incorporated very thoughtfully, better than I could have done myself. And then Amy and Scott's emails kind of, right around the edges, kind of tweaking some stuff were helpful, but I'm thrilled. I just think it's a huge improvement. It's going to be much easier for people to see what we're trying to, get, and I just love it. I love the changes. Great job, Aaron, on the revisions. Thank you.
Commissioner Dantzler.
Yeah, I agree. Great improvements, from a few weeks ago. And my comments were, primarily like tweaking the language on instructions to get it more concise for our readers, shortening up some language and some wording tweaks. So yeah, thanks for considering those.
Commissioner Lowe.
Yeah, I also really like the revision of the survey, and I think Scott and Amy's comments are very thoughtful. And the comments I sent to you, Charlie, actually is around question 17 and 18. One is about the measures city can take. So I think it is aligned with Scott's comment. My only follow-on question is this, the measures listed there, and one of two measures seems like overlapping, which is the measures to reduce dependency on automobiles. Another is the better transit service, or change it to work with state and county to improve transit service. I feel like there's an overlap. Reduce the automobile dependency and the transit. Maybe we can combine, or somehow it doesn't seem to be a standalone option, in my opinion.
Which question talks about the reduced
the
dependency on
18.
automobiles?
18, what measures?
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Yes, okay. Who has the version that I was working on? Is that? Okay, let me see. I know that there were some comments on that, and but that's okay. I understand what you're saying. So
Yeah.
there are measures to reduce dependence on automobiles that don't involve transit, however. So maybe these, like making the downtown more walkable, for example, by adding bike lanes and sidewalks.
We can't hear you.
Sorry. I will say there are more options and ways, solutions to reduce automobile dependency. But transit is one of that. So in another way, what I'm saying is this is transit is more like a subset of the reduced automobile dependency. Anyway, that's one. Another, I think on the revision actually already added, which is what's your biggest concern regarding growth in the city of Newcastle? I would like to add public safety. I saw it's already added in a revised copy, so
Okay.
thank you.
And on the transportation question, I think we can work at that question to address your concern. I agree with you, but I think we can fix it without too much trouble.
Okay.
Commissioner Van Atta.
Yeah, hi. Overall, I love this. Well, you saw my text message. So I have 3 or 4, like, maybe minor things. You don't have page numbers. Newcastle in 2045 says below our series of statements. I think that should be below our A series of statements. Like, there's a word missing there. You see that?
Below are a series of statements. Below is a series of statements. Is that
Below
yeah.
is a series?
Yes.
Or is a series or something funky there? Sorry, that's grammatical. And then flipping down to housing, where it says an additional 1,480 housing units by 2045. The 1,480, is that the real number? For some reason in my head, I thought this was like the 2025 or 2035 number. Do we know?
Yeah.
That's the 2045 number?
Similar to the prior horse trading.
Speaker.
Okay.
It is, but we'll make sure that it absolutely is.
Yeah, I just, for some reason, I was just like, I feel like that's an outdated number, but
It's similar to
I might be wrong.
It's similar to the horse trading from the last round. That then is reset, starts from, the 0 year, and then
Yeah.
projects out another 10 years. So it's very similar.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
we'll check that the actual digits are the
Correct.
target number.
Okay. Okay, and then in the same section, this part, this is, I don't know, I guess I'm questioning this. So in that first couple of sentences, it says, add a minimum duplexes and accessory dwelling units in all single-family neighborhoods, subject to certain exceptions. And then down under 14, the second checkbox is Newcastle should focus multifamily developing within existing neighborhoods and not within the central business district, which that aligns with what that opening paragraph says. That we're gonna be required to put, ADUs and duplexes in single family neighborhoods. But then the one above it, the first checkbox is, focus on, the business district. I mean, to me, that they just, like that first checkbox and the opening paragraph are contradicting themselves. I mean, can we do, yeah, I mean.
So I guess, Paul, the way that I read it is the prompt piece of it is setting out, under the Growth Management Act, this is a requirement. There's this new state law that allows at a minimum this type of infill middle housing.
Yeah.
And then the way I read question 14 is, okay, what do you as the survey taker, do you think that we should plan on trying to focus multifamily primarily in that central business district as opposed to distributing it more broadly and focusing more on putting it in multifamily, or excuse me, in single family residential neighborhoods? Or the second box is saying, no, we don't want it in downtown, we want it focused out in the neighborhoods. And then I read the third box is saying, we want it distributed across both. That's what I heard too. I saw it as kind of like, of these three choices, what's your preferred. So I don't know if that was the intent. Maybe Aaron can say, or Charlie, but
Yeah, I don't know. I've been there.
The way this was originally written, it took, you had to read through about 10 words before you got to where it was different. So we're proposing that the introductory line in each of these options get axed and you get right to the contrasts, which might make it easier to spot the contrasts.
I'm okay with it. Moving on to question 16. And this is more of just, instead of having all these checkboxes for all possible, this is a duplex.
A microphone, please.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize it turned off. Would it be better just to have like, duplex, cottage, townhouse on the survey and they get ranked? Like rank your most favorite type of multifamily housing instead of these like, ooh, do I choose ADUs, duplexes, and cottages? Or, you know what I mean? I don't know, I just, survey-wise, this just seemed like a lot.
Yeah, but
And if you're trying to get to, do people prefer duplexes over cottages? Maybe it's just a ranking of, like, like a drag and drop kind of thing on the screen. I don't know if even that's possible.
I think trying to simplify is the goal. However, this question, it's mixed. It's not all. So in another way, is like if you listed a condo, townhome, it's not like you are only going to pick one. You can have mixed scenarios.
Right, but like for example, I like duplexes and triplexes, but not cottages. And that option's not here. Whereas if it were ranking, I could say duplex is my favorite, triplex is my second, maybe cottages is my third, kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe you want to think about that one. And maybe what I'm suggesting with how you answer it isn't even a possibility. But
I understand your concern, but I do like.
Speaker, please.
I like it the way it is. I understand Paul's concern. In the 7 seconds I thought about it, my gut is I like it the way it is.
yeah,
It does limit your choices, just like you say. If you have a combination that isn't shown here, you don't really have a way to express that. It's a hard thing
yeah.
to
I don't
do
know.
in a
That's why I was
survey,
thinking
think.
of ranking them. But again, I'm not going to die on this hill.
Well, why don't, Aaron Qualls, who's the only Aaron here tonight, at least present in the room, although I think Aaron is with us she might be with us distantly.
Yeah.
Aaron Qualls, maybe you could just give some thought to this and see if there is a nifty solution. I'm okay with the way it is as well, even though it's not perfect, but maybe there is a way to accommodate Commissioner Vanatta's concern.
Well, thank you. Well, if I heard correctly, I remember there were a couple of comments on this question, and one of them was about accommodating housing and differentiating that between planning for it, then making it clear that the city's not on the hook to actually build the housing or but to plan for it. So I tweaked a little bit of language to essentially take out accommodate for and just simply say plan for it. And then another question was from the comments received, and I think this ties into what you're discussing, is around multifamily. And the question was, what do we mean when we say multifamily? Which is actually a great question, because if you look at Newcastle's definition of multifamily, it says 2 or more units. If you look at the state's definition, it says 4 or more. Some cities say 3 or more. So my thinking is to maybe not use the word multifamily and talk about more variety of housing types, which kind of follows the previous question a little nicer. And just for clarity as well, townhouses are not considered really multifamily. They're considered single family attached. And when we talk about more variety beyond single-family homes, we're talking really about more variety beyond single-family detached homes. So I made some tweaks there in my draft version in response to those thoughtful comments, and which I think to some degree would help clarify what you're discussing now.
Commissioner Marsh?
You know, I actually don't have a huge concern with this as drafted, I think with some of the tweaks, but I'm wondering, Paul, you know, an alternative that might thread the needle could be phrasing this in terms of, you know, select what you think is appropriate additional housing types for detached single-family neighborhoods in the city of Newcastle. And you could have this last selection, this one here with all the choices, and you could have required under single-family ADU and duplexes, and then you could have check boxes underneath of these, and you could have people check the ones that they wanted, that they thought were appropriate. So if you think triplexes are okay, or if you think townhomes are okay, if you think they're all okay, you could check what you think fits, and you can omit what you think doesn't. I don't know if that further complicates it this late in the game, but it seems like that might get to your issue without necessarily, I don't know how that would fit with everybody else's vision of this, but it's one thought.
Yeah, well, the other thing is I do really like the graphics.
Me too.
So we have to keep the graphics. So
Yeah, and I like the idea if we could keep the graphics, but they don't have to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, just adding one each time. It could just be what Scott described as
yeah,
click the ones you like.
I think, it seems to me that there'd be a way for that to work with if our survey tool is flexible enough for that. But I like that solution.
yeah, I liked what
So-
Scott proposed, but like, we have to keep the graphics. However, that's a must.
Yeah, I like the graphics too. Just a question, Scott. If we give the choice with those type of housings, when people choose, can they choose multiple or so that will be multiple? So that's the question will need to be changed, right? Currently it says please choose only one. Right. What we have, yeah.
That was my thought, would be redrafted to allow for that.
Yeah. Okay.
You're not, oh. We had too many mics on, I think you weren't getting picked up. Let's turn to Vice Chair Kennard, who hasn't had a chance to comment.
Ooh, I got 2 more things.
Oh, okay.
Not so fast. All right, moving down to question 19. There's no I work in Newcastle checkbox. I think there are people that live in Newcastle and work in Newcastle. Because there's I live in Newcastle and then there's I work in Newcastle but live elsewhere. I think we should add I work in Newcastle.
How, would you explain that again? Because I think we have, it seems like we have it covered. I'm not
Well,
catching the distinction.
so, there's gotta be people that live here in Newcastle, but also work, like they work at Safeway. Live and work, yeah.
Yeah, but does that matter?
Yeah, I think it matters from the economic section, because I am curious how many people, earn a check here that live here versus, are, commuting in versus commuting out.
Do we know that from other sources, Director Hoffman?
Well, we have some data.
Through the census, they have inflows and outflows, so in a summary fashion, we know how many are working elsewhere and how many live somewhere else and commute in, but we don't have it in relation to these questions.
Commissioners, do you want to add that?
I think it is actually a good idea to add it because in some cities, the housing challenge is there's not enough, affordable housing for people who actually earn the paycheck in the city. So I think that question will differentiate.
I think it'd be, provide an interesting baseline to see, because I would want that number to go up dramatically in the future, the people that actually work here and live here, because I know a couple people that work at Safeway who actually live around here. It'd be awesome if there were more people that lived and worked around here. And honestly, it wouldn't take up much space. The idea of, I like the graphics are fabulous. Again, Aaron, you did an amazing job. I like the way the graphics are laid out as is, but with regards to Paul's idea of adding in that I live here and work here thing, I think there's not a lot of people that fit that category, and I'd like to see that number grow.
I think also in support of that idea, and I like the idea, since the last census year, which was 2020, right? You know, with the pandemic, things may have shifted significantly in terms of people who are working remotely, work full-time from their homes. And it'd be interesting to see how that's reflected in that question as well, if it shows up.
I got one more. This is just throwing it out there, but these last questions that are kind of getting to, you know, understanding who filled out the survey, should we ask the question, how long have you lived in Newcastle? You know, 0 to 1 year, 1 to 3 years, that kind of thing. Would that be useful when we get the data to know these are new people answering versus, you know, I've lived here for 30 years answering? Just asking the question.
Any objections? Sounds like the commission likes that.
Okay. That's the, I'm done.
Okay, now we will move to Vice Chair Kennard.
Well, after having reviewed Scott's comments and Amy's comments and then listening to everybody, I really don't have a whole lot to add here. Other than perhaps in the future when the final, not the final, but the proposed final comes out, to maybe add some editing or some comments. But for the most part, I'm pleased with how this has been a collaborative effort and how it has shifted so much from what first came out to what we see today. After the first go around, I wasn't sure exactly what Jim was getting at, so I went out to at least 10 or 12 different municipalities looking for a similar survey. And a couple things struck me. One was that I liked Gig Harbor's the best and sent it on, but the other was that so many of these cities have already completed their survey, and the survey wasn't open to even look at. So it kind of told me we were a little behind the 8 ball, but I was really happy to hear at our prior meeting that we have enough time to be able to accommodate our schedule. And the end result, I think, is something that I think we can all be pretty proud of so far. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm assuming that the commissioners who have spoken don't have any objections to the comments that from Amy and Scott that they saw. So I just want to make sure that if there's anything that you wanted to, that you disagreed with their approach, now's the time to mention that. Okay. I have a couple of questions. One is for Director Hoffman. I've seen 2045 and 2044 both presented as our date. Which one is it?
It's really whatever you make it. They've given us more time, things change over time. It's essentially extending out your existing 2035 10 years. So if you go with 2045, that would do it.
Okay,
If
let's
you're
just decide
super
that it's
early in
20.
the process and you want to stop at 2044, or you have a data issue, the date doesn't matter.
Yeah, I just want to have the same date all the way through, so let's use that. I wanted to explain the addition of some of the demographic questions. We added ethnicity and income and age. And the reason we did that is because that will help us know how representative our survey respondents are of the city's population. We have data on those things from other sources, and this way we'll know if there's any significant demographic groups that are underrepresented, and we can kind of interpret the data that way. And then a question for the commissioners. Were you happy with the way the survey addressed the vision, the downtown vision? Or do you think that the questions in there are adequate for what you want to know about what Newcastle has in mind for the downtown? It comes up, I think, only once, and that is in the housing in downtown Newcastle, where there's a question that talks about putting housing in multi-story buildings above businesses. But that's the only place. Commissioner Dassler.
My only comment on this, and I forget if I put that in writing or if Scott, your section mentioned something, but I did sort of just question in my own mind, not necessarily like wondering what other people are thinking, like in a survey format, but it seems like townhomes and apartments all fitting in the downtown space seemed like maybe a stretch, because there's not a lot of space. I don't think I'm necessarily thinking we would want residents' feedback on that. That's more of like a city planner or a developer perspective. But that's just me driving by, looking and thinking, wow, townhomes and apartments. So I don't know if anyone else, I am curious if anyone else had that reaction when they looked at number 16. Are we asking too much of residents to sort of tell us back, no, those things can't fit? Or are we really curious about that? Are we thinking we want to hear back from residents about whether those type of housing could fit downtown? Am I reading that right on number 16? We're asking them not just the first two mixed-use ones, but apartments and townhomes?
Well, we're certainly asking them. Sure.
Yeah, no, I actually had, I thought about it earlier, although it didn't get reflected in my comments, that I thought it was interesting, getting to your initial question, that question 16 here with those options, multifamily apartments and townhouses. I'm assuming that is, if we're asking people if that's what they prefer, and that is what they prefer, we're understanding that to mean we prefer to have housing without commercial uses in that downtown area. Because I assume that if I were to respond to this and say, I really think there should be multifamily apartments in that central business district, and I don't pick something like mixed-use buildings or mixed-use site, that's exclusively a residential use there, right? And I think maybe that's not entirely clear here, that's what's the result of those options. And I'm not sure if that's something that are we really offering that? And maybe that's part of your question too, is are we really offering an option here for people to consider that we focus the downtown, the central business district, to be a residential district instead?
That is what I've been wondering about since seeing this version of the survey, but I am just noticing that up in the instructions and the wording of the survey, it also says areas adjacent to Coal Creek Parkway. So maybe if we can define this question a little bit more, if we're talking about just what is technically zoned as downtown, that would be one thing. But if we're talking about Coal Creek Parkway, that would maybe be something different.
One of the suggestions that Commissioner Marsh made was to put a map in here of what that downtown area is, and that would show that it is parts that border Coal Creek Parkway. But I think they're all developed. There's no undeveloped parcels along Coal Creek Parkway that could accommodate more housing. They're just things that could be redeveloped. You could replace the fruit stand, for example, with housing. You could I'm not sure actually. I don't have it here, but I don't know if you can replace any of those places that are now mixed use with only housing, but I don't think that if you allow mixed use, that doesn't mean you don't forbid only residential, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct, it's usually stacked. So if you own a blank piece of property and you choose to build a single-family home and it's zoned for multifamily, you wouldn't then tell the owner, no, you can only build an office or, apartments. It's Euclidean zoning.
So you could just build a single-family home where the Safeway is now if you own that property.
Exactly, mostly it just gets more and more intense, but nobody does that. They build to the highest and best use.
So I'm not hearing anybody saying, I really need more direction on the downtown vision.
I think it's also, in addition to what you noted, it's also picked up in the Newcastle in 2045. It references an inviting, vibrant, walkable downtown and some of those things as well, for what it's worth.
We can make the downtown more walkable just by putting in more intersections, more crosswalks and traffic lights so that it was easier to cross the street. It doesn't have to be a mixed-use development to be more walkable. Okay. Yeah.
I apologize for not asking this earlier, but I'm curious, and Aaron Qualls, this may be a question for you, but with some of these questions that we have at the end, age, what type of residence do you live in, those types of things, when we get some of the other kind of substantive development-oriented questions answered, will we be able to see data kind of cross-referenced by category in terms of, okay, so people who live in single-family residences feel this way about these issues, people who live in apartments and condos feel that way about this issue, right? Or people that live in this general area, which is where apartments are, they have a different response. Or people who have lived here longer or not as long have a really different view of what some of these issues may look like.
Yes, absolutely. The system's really good about that. We can, we can give you data on, how many people overall answered that they live in town versus visit town or outside of town, and we can, also correlate it with other questions as needed, as we think is relevant and important to the process.
Wonderful, thank you.
Commissioner Lowe.
Yeah, one nitpicking here on the page, I think 7 is just before ready to help shape Newcastle's future. The sentence above that, I think it's missing T for this. Want to learn more about.
I think that's it, what I said.
Oh. I can't believe we missed that until now. Thank you.
Where is it, on page 1?
Page, I guess page 2, page 1. Oh, okay, because I missed it. In the instructions, want to learn more about this important effort. This missed
Oh.
T.
Okay.
While Maggie's got the microphone, I have a question for you. You mentioned something about public safety. I only remember one reference in the survey it said like safety and resilience or whatever it was.
Yeah.
What is it? I want to explore what you're mentioning because I think that would be awesome to get.
I was proposing to add a choice for 17. What's your biggest concern regarding growth in the city of Newcastle? And the the version I have is environmental impacts, demands on services, change or loss of community character, traffic, and other. And I propose to add the public safety.
Yeah, we will do that. Commissioner Dantzler.
I have another topic on the environmental impact. Curious to hear from Brian if tree canopy fits into environmental impact enough to call that out. I know that that's a priority of some of our residents.
I think that's a question to you, Brian. We're not-
Sorry, I missed, what was the question again?
Oh, I was
Didn't
looking
know I-
at,
Listen.
oh, that's okay, yeah. Maggie was talking about question number 17, biggest concerns regarding growth in the city. And one of them currently is environmental impacts. I was curious to hear from you if tree canopy has come up in your conversations about parks enough that we would call that out on the survey, whether as an example of an environmental impact or an additional concern.
Generally, the people on the trails and parks folks that I've been talking with don't have a huge concern about that, but it is mandated by the state that we do a tree canopy survey of some kind, and so it may be appropriate to put something in there.
I'll yield to you or others on that. I was just more curious about it, if tree canopy had come up.
Commissioner Lowe?
Yes, I have a question. I think last time we mentioned something to have external resource or reference link. Do we have those? Or I'm thinking like, do we want to have a link in terms of the Washington's Growth Management Act? And also for the demographic or census information, it kind of, I guess, reference with. I think Aaron sent out an email like income ratio, or basically, I think it's like 2020. I quickly glanced, I forgot. But when I read it, I was like, oh, I didn't know. It's kind of interesting information. I will also just be honest, like if I'm filling out those demographic question, I don't want to be put in certain box because my answer is that, but if I know my neighborhood, my demographic, I probably will feel a little bit more comfortable to answer it. It's not like people live in a single family house and in certain income category, they answer this way. If I'm just curious if that information can be external reference something for people, just check, get a little bit more information.
So let me see if I understand. You're asking if we can put some links to other resources in the survey?
Yes.
Dr. Hoffman, you were going to say something?
This may be a good moment to actually see the draft postcard. And then the opportunity could be the website. I'm not saying it would address that particular bit of information, but you can put anything on the website, and there's quite a bit there, and it already has that reference, and it's really pretty. And Aaron Qualls wants to show it off.
Okay, well, let's go there next, but before we go there, to close off on the survey, I suggest that I'll send my comments that incorporate your comments to Aaron, and including the things that came up just tonight, and have Aaron look at both versions, and then Aaron and I talk in a separate meeting about what he thinks is a better way to go, and then we'll reconcile the two versions. I know there's some things that I know because I've had some conversations with commissioners that Aaron isn't aware of, so I can add that to his understanding, and then have him send out a revision to us that we would commit to turn around within a short number of days, and the schedule would be another thing that we would need to talk about, and maybe that can be part of our postcard discussion. So does that sound like, in terms of handling survey comments, a good way to go? Okay. So why don't we look at the postcard, your postcard, Aaron, and talk about how we're going to use that and administer the survey.
Okay. very good. Let me try and share the screen here. But Charlie, you provided a version that with slight content tweaks that I really liked actually. But this is what our designer came up with. This is the front page of the front of the postcard, and that is the back. Is using the click-to-mail template, the system that the city wants to use to get these mailed out efficiently and fairly cost effectively. And as Mark mentioned, there's a link to the plan update page. And there's also, and that's also provided in the beginning of the survey. And that's a page where the city can continually update with additional information and links to commerce and missing middle housing and demographic data, et cetera. So just real quick, that's what it looks like right now. And you know, we may tweak this, easy to tweak, you know, with maybe Charlie's, you know, slightly different version. But that's what folks will be receiving, more or less.
I will hand that out now while we take comments. Commissioner Van Atta?
Oh, I got kind of a question on the, I guess, execution of this. Does this get mailed like one per household or one per person in the household?
I have an answer. I'm not sure if it's the answer. Do you want me to go first, Aaron?
This, Aaron?
Yeah.
It would go to each household, is my understanding, but you know, different people can take the survey within the household as long as they use a different device.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was going with it, because if it's one per household, I didn't see anything on the front or the back that really said, you know, each person in the household should do the survey. And I don't know if that complicates things. I mean, maybe it's just easier. It goes to the household and the first person that gets it takes it. And maybe in another house, you know, husband and wife, they both take it. I don't know, but it doesn't say, you know, everybody 18 or older should take it or anything.
Maybe would we note that on the website,
Well, I think it needs to say it here, like,
on the postcard?
you know, because I assume it's going to be addressed to one person or the, you know, the Van Atta residents. So who takes it? I'm just asking, you know, how we can, you know, how do people do this?
So,
The way it's addressed,
Do you want me to jump in here? Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, Aaron.
Hi. I'll be sending this out, so I thought I'd just jump in. This is done through the post office every mail direct program. So the mailing list comes from the Postal Service. So yeah, it might just say current resident, and then it'll have the address on it. And it's meant so that it gets to everybody rather than missing a bunch of people from using like King County's list or something.
Mm-hmm.
I would prefer that it say current resident, because if it has a name, that would imply that only that person can take the survey.
Mm.
I do have a concern with it being only one survey per device. I can imagine, like my mother and father-in-law share a desktop computer, and you know, they don't use their phones for any of this kind of stuff. And if one of them takes the survey and it's by device limited, then the other one couldn't. So I don't know how important it is that we limit it, because I really suspect there's not a great chance of anybody gaming the system on this.
And I will get a better answer for that. It's my, you know, there are ways to use it. I think if you just clear the cache, you can use the same browser, or on the same device, you can use a different browser. And certainly you could use two different phones for two different surveys. But I can come back with an answer how specifically that works if you try to use the same browser without clearing your cache for two people to take the same survey.
Yeah, I think asking people to clear their cache is asking too much, especially
Yeah.
my mother and father-in-law. Cash? That's what I have in my wallet. Another distribution question for you, Aaron Fitzgibbons, is can we offer a hard copy version for people who are not connected? Can they call the city of Newcastle and request that a paper survey be given to them?
Yeah, I think we could have hard copy versions at City Hall. We could even have some at the counter, and they could take them or take it there at City Hall if the conference room is open.
Can we have them call City Hall and have it mailed to them?
We can. Yeah, I need to coordinate a little bit with our person who does all the mailing, but I think that's a possibility. I'll let you know if it's not for some reason.
I don't think there'd be many of them.
Yeah, I think it's probably fine.
Commissioner Marsh?
So just confirming, so I understand that this is a mailer that will be physically mailed out. Will an electronic version of this be made available that we can either use, reference, forward to people that are in Newcastle that, I've got a friend that I might forward this to and say, hey, I don't know if you saw this in your mail, but if you care about the city of Newcastle and what it's going to look like, here's the information for the survey. Or if somebody asks me about it and they say, yeah, I got the postcard, but my spouse threw it in the garbage, right? Or will we get something in it, like maybe a city email with this information we could share?
Yeah.
I don't want to blurt first. I imagine you would just go to the website and click on a link. Aaron Qualls.
Yes, yeah, or you can, every channel we can, we wouldn't just limit it to the postcard. Social media accounts, we can repurpose this image to lead people to the survey and make it shareable. And certainly a link on the website. Certainly, the city's, whatever media channels the city has, and we've talked about that before. And also partner organizations. We can create a little blurb with a direct link. We're creating a short URL for it that they can provide, and a short blurb about the survey, and maybe an image as well that they can provide in their newsletter. So to get maximum exposure, and that's helpful because if someone sees it in just one media channel, they might forget about it, might blow by. But if it pops up in a few different ways, it's more encouraging for people to fill it out.
My comment, I think, is going to be tough for Aaron because with my previous comment combined with this comment, his ego and head will be so big he won't be able to leave his house. Aaron, I'm going to have you do the Quake Family Christmas card. I think this looks fabulous. Well done. I like the design. I think it's simple and clear of what people are being asked to do. My one idea is, and I don't even know if this is allowed, Mark, like when you go to Tapatio and you're waiting for your table, when you go to Supercuts and you're waiting for the lady to come cut your hair, when you're waiting, I feel like we could put these up like where people wait, like, at the different stores and stuff. Like if you're in line at Newcastle Fruit Produce, if you're in line at Safeway, if you're in line at Tapatio, if you're in line at, all these different places. I feel like this week, let's get as many clicks on this link as possible. I don't even know if we're allowed to do that, but we could at least ask if we can put it up.
They're not necessarily residents in Newcastle if we distribute it that way.
Oh, that's good. Well, so I guess, what are the different categories? I work in Newcastle, or I own a business in Newcastle. I forget what Paul had us go through. Maybe you're right. There would be people that wouldn't be residents who would be going to restaurants around here. So maybe that's not a good idea. But anyway, Aaron, awesome job once again.
Thank you. It's a team effort.
I have a couple of comments. One, Aaron, I love the design. It looks fabulous. I would rather have much less information on the back. And I don't, the version that I did has probably half the copy. And I see some things in the version that you did that I think are necessary, but reading the back, if you show the back again of the card, on this side, you have to really hunt for the survey link. So it's really prominent in the front.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I'd like to see if we can make it a little less copy heavy. And then I'd like to ask the commissioners what they think about the headline that I put on this version I submitted. What do you want Newcastle's future to look like? And the reason I proposed that is I was worried that how would you design Newcastle could be interpreted to be about how it looks, our design discussion, as opposed to the broader category that the comprehensive plan covers.
What would you say instead?
What do you want Newcastle's future to look like?
I agree with your comment.
I think one thing I will say, what do you want Newcastle's future to look like? I probably will change a different picture. Because that picture to me, it's more construction or maybe even just housing. And if bedroom community is not my vision, people might have very different future look like. I don't know if that picture limited that vision.
The picture does work really well with the original headline, but I think the picture also limits the scope of the survey to construction, future construction.
What about how would you build Newcastle's future? No? No.
I get the sense, the idea is to keep it as broad as possible because the comprehensive plan isn't just about building and construction. It's just, like Charlie said, it's our future. The point of the picture, the idea of the picture was these people pointing to the future saying, hey, we're going to, it's supposed to be, what's this going to look like? Pointing out, like, we've got these plans, this is how we're going to implement this plan. That was the idea, after looking at literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pictures and thinking, like, what would be the one that would really capture it? This one seemed to be the best approach to it. The idea of changing it to what do you want Newcastle's future to look like? I like the idea, Charlie, of that in concept. If there was a way, as you pointed earlier, to make it, so it's not so many words, because the idea is just to capture their attention with a picture and a question. Picture and a question, in the internet business, how do you get somebody to click it? How do you get somebody to scan this QR code? So the way it was originally designed, it's a very simple question you can read without, having to commit to a big long sentence that might overwhelm you. The picture grabs your attention because it's really clear what you're looking at. I mean, I think the picture and the way that Aaron designed it is simple and easy. Could somebody maybe interpret it to be a little confining? Yes. Could we try something with multiple pictures and multiple different stuff? Yes. I think the way it is designed now, just like the survey, it ain't perfect, but I like it the way it is as designed by Aaron, both in survey and in postcard.
Oh, can we see the postcard again on the screen? I don't know, I like it.
I like it too. I don't dislike. I guess I have one thought now. What about if we take those frame out? Just leave the characters with the hard hat. I don't know. I just feel that frame, it's more like building a house. It's, I don't know, that's my first impression.
That's doable. I mean, give me 5 minutes in my computer and I can take out all the construction wood framing in the background and just have it in front of a blank blue screen if you just want the picture of the people in front of a blank screen pointing.
There's some greens, I mean, there's, that's,
Say what?
there are some, those green trees, so whatever the
It's a
landscape.
beautiful thing designed by Microsoft called Photomagic, so it's very doable. And when I say I'll do it, the computer will do it.
Commissioner Marsh?
I like that suggestion. The thing that kind of bothered me was that it looked like, it was under construction, and it didn't really look like a planning exercise, it looked like a building exercise. And I like the idea that with a background of, call it green grass, that anything could go there. It appeals to me more than what's there, so I like that.
So I guess my 2 cents worth is that I like what I'm hearing about the picture. I'm not super concerned about it from the picture standpoint, the graphic standpoint. I prefer what do you want Newcastle's future to look like or some iteration of that, because I do think we're not asking people just about designing Newcastle. We're talking about public safety. We're talking about economic development. Ultimately, that's the broader project here, the comp plan review. We're talking about walkability, right? And I know that there's some design components to that, but I think we're asking for more. And I personally, if we want to wordsmith the sentence, what do you want Newcastle's future to look like? We could take a few minutes and we could sure do that. But in concept, I prefer that over how would you design Newcastle?
Well, we have a great lack of consensus on this.
You're there, and so I'll just add this. Everything I've ever experienced, they do the charrette thing where there's a table and a bunch of stickies and pens and, people like me, going like this to a chart or board to the point where now when I see that, I think boring. I want no part of that, and that is part of the process, but I'd like how this is more immediate. Then you get into the survey. And so for me, it's more refreshing. However you want to change it so they're not building
I like it
house.
as is, but I'm willing to change it so maybe.
If we had a different background, will it still work? I'm asking commissioners if.
I want to, like I said, we can try it without the building part in the background. I think the computer will do the work for us. I'm just, to get people's attention, it's got to be something, because I'm just thinking people raising their hands, like it's a survey of an audience, a kid, walking through a park. I looked at literally hundreds of pictures and concepted this in my mind in a million different ways. And this to me it was a way of capturing all the different elements of what we're trying to do, which is people thoughtfully, happily saying, what do we want this to look like, right? Like that's what the idea is supposed to do. And to Maggie's point, but don't have it just about construction and wood and buildings, Quig. Make it about more broad. So maybe if we take out the construction-y stuff in the background, it'll still have that feel without constricting it just to buildings.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking my input. Yeah, I think it will, and I also do like the broader statement Charlie has. What do you want Newcastle's future look like?
Yeah, that's a big improvement.
Yeah.
So here's an idea for the graphic behind. What if you put like the picture in the survey of a mixed-use buildings? What if you put that behind? I mean, that could be Newcastle's future. It's, we could use, you could find something like that, a stock photo perhaps. We could use a picture from Newcastle Commons. That sort of thing might.
Here's my answer to your very good question. I hate that idea. if you want to grab people's attention, put a picture of a puppy, a baby, not a lot of babies, a picture of a baby staring into the screen, a picture of a woman crying, a picture of, you know, you got to grab their attention, right? And if you have it with nobody cares a hollering hoot about a building, really. But if you have a picture of faces, for some reason, the human nature in us is drawn to that more. So even though, yes, it'd be more accurate, I just, if what we're trying to do is get people to actually take the time to click on it, to grab their attention as they're surfing through the zillion different things they see during the day, I wouldn't get it too messy with a bunch of pictures of multi-use houses, because they're just not going to click on it. They just don't care. It'll become white noise in their minds. That's my 2 cents. Yes, it would be more accurate, but no, it wouldn't get as many clicks.
So why don't we do this? Why don't you come up with 2 different choices that you like, and then send them around, send them to Mark, and have Mark send them out to us, and we'll do a little straw poll. With the how would you shape Newcastle's future as the, yeah.
Can I make one other comment? I like that idea. On the back is the Newcastle fruit and produce. I don't love that picture being there. I feel like people are going to look at the front, whether it says design or shape, or they're going to flip over the back and think that we're developing that block of the city. I think it should be something more generic that's not calling out that specific business, is my 2 cents.
Like what?
I don't know.
How about an aerial view of Newcastle, or Newcastle from the top of where the golf course is down toward the city? Some sort of a, you know, panorama or a landscape. Something that doesn't look like it could potentially be construed as an endorsement of a local business, for example.
Or that we were trying to develop that corner into multifamily housing. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what goes there. I just think it, yeah.
Yeah, I think we should not have the name of a local business. I think that,
Yeah.
okay, so we have a plan for how to go about finishing the card.
Put a
We
baby
have a
on that.
plan for the look. We have we have a great look. Aaron, I assume you're okay with trying to simplify the wordage on the back?
Yes, sir. I think it's a great idea. And I'm
Then,
having fun. Sorry, that's my daughter.
Puppies gets people's attention.
Yeah, I don't have a puppy. I just have a daughter.
I have a great picture of a puppy in that old abandoned postal truck in May Creek Park. Have you ever seen that, hike that park? No, you haven't. It would be recognizable to a lot of people in that part of town, but not everybody. The rusty one, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so that's on producing the postcard. Aaron, could you speak more to what happens next? Timing for when the postcard might come out, when we ask people to have the postcard back, or not the postcard, complete the survey, that sort of stuff.
Right. Yeah, we want to put a time limit on there. Usually we give 2 or 3 weeks. Sometimes, you know, if we don't feel like we've got enough responses, we can extend that. We are coming up against holidays, so, you know, arguably that's a good time. Arguably it's a bad time. People will be, you know, maybe they'll have time to fill out a survey. But giving folks at least 2 weeks, and I would say maybe 3 if we really want to be robust about it and target other channels. We can also put out, I think it's helpful to post a couple of different messages on Facebook. You know, at least, you know, an initial one and then a reminder, time's running out, don't forget. Does that answer your question, or are you asking even beyond that?
That gets to part of it. Let's talk some potential dates. How would you feel about having the postcard arrive January 2nd or thereabouts, and then have 3 weeks after that be the deadline? I wouldn't want
I
the
think that would
postcard
be
to
okay.
arrive in the middle of the holidays.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be, I think that would be good. Since we're doing direct mail, we'll be competing with a lot less, Christmas cards coming at that time, so. And it does kind of have a Christmas card look to it.
And I take it that that gives us plenty of time to produce and print and do everything, make the card before it gets dropped off at the post office.
We need
I think
to,
so. Aaron, go ahead.
I was gonna say, we probably need 10 days to 2 weeks to make sure it gets to people's houses on time. So, because it takes, they say that it takes 7 to 14 days to get to people's homes. And then I'm assuming we're gonna choose 3-day production time. So, that chunks down on our time just a little bit.
So we can't be really sure when it's going to arrive. I mean, we could mail it on the 31st and it might not get to everybody until the 10th. And then we'd want those people to have a good 2 weeks to respond.
Getting back to the picture on the back of the postcard, Newcastle Produce is a pretty popular spot, but so are Newcastle trails. So I suggest a puppy dog walking on one of Newcastle's trails. Or Aaron's kid.
We do have some good trail pictures actually when Bill was out visiting, but we don't have any puppies on them. So if you all have a puppy on the trail, please send it my way.
Okay, well, we issue a call to commissioners to send their puppy pictures to Aaron.
I know we're bouncing around a little bit. Did we get, I'm not sure if we got resolution on the schedule or dates or hard dates, but I guess maybe one thing we could do is, I assume that there's going to be an email circulated to the commissioners in the next week to maybe 10 days with the revised survey, right? And it sounds like a potentially a revised postcard selection process as well. Could we get a proposed timeframe, a proposed schedule around that as well? And I don't know, Aaron, if that comes from you, or Aaron, if that comes from you, or Mark or Charlie, if that's something that you generate. But, I think factoring in how long we want to let people have, the holidays, production time, mailing time, maybe whoever is responsible, maybe ultimately for the process, could propose something, and then we could review it when we review the other things that are coming through email. And if we have concerns, that would be a time to voice them. Is that fair?
Yeah? Who is what?
Who puts that schedule together?
Aaron, how much lead time do you want to have once you get all of the pieces to make a card? Aaron Fitzgibbons.
So SDJ is gonna send me a PDF, and then I in turn just send it through our mailing service that we use. I'm out the week of Christmas. Sorry, I've forgotten those dates, but so if I had it the week before, I think that should work. Because that gives us a week of production time, or that gives us the 3 days of production time plus a week to get it out by the beginning of, it'd be out the beginning of January. So some people may get it sooner, they might get it later, but I think the thing is, assuming that maybe they even get it after it's already open, we might want to account for that. So having it open until like the third week of January, at least.
Christmas is Monday, the 25th. So are you working the week before that, the full week before that, or are you? Okay,
Yes, if I could have a couple of days just to, in case something's going on and I, for some reason, can't get it out the day I get it.
so say December 18th would be the target for having the postcard to you and ready, all the pieces to you so you could go ahead and produce it. And then you would then, I guess, deliver it to the mailing service on the Friday before you go on vacation. And they're going to take some time. It's not going to get mailed until sometime at the earliest the following week, which is the last week of December, which has it arrived then sometime between January 5th and January 12th. And then we would give them to, let's say, the 26th to complete the survey. That's what we would set as the deadline. Does that sound like a reasonable schedule? Mr. Qualls, how does that sound?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So we should expect, Aaron, Mr. Qualls, you'll be working on stuff. We'll get something for us to review a week from now, or first of next week. Does that? I guess I'm trying to do a work back then from the 18th. We need to have a couple of postcards done. Does that work if, in terms of production time and getting the other things ready that need to get done?
Yeah, the postcard, I mean, our graphic designers are the ones who put this together. So I'm going to tell you, I can't take all the credit for it. No, all they do is graphic design. And they're very fast. So I'm not too worried about turnover time for that. As long as, you have the right images that you want to use. And then the survey, I think, Charlie and I can get together either in the next couple of days or very early next week and have that ready, that other draft ready to go back to you. So I think certainly by the end of next week, we might be ready to go unless we feel like we need another meeting.
So we would be sending you, the commissioners, the survey. The next draft would be the week of the 11th. So let's just say a week from today, the 13th. And we would ask you to return it around, say, by Monday, the 18th. We finalize the survey the same date that we are giving the postcard materials to Aaron. I think that works. Aaron, let's try and talk on this Friday. I will send my marked up comments to you tomorrow in the morning.
Okay, very good. I've been taking notes and I can send that after this meeting.
And commissioners, your comments on the survey, send them back to me. So I'm not sure how we'll get it to you, but maybe I'll send it to them. Yeah, Mark is nodding his head yes. So between Aaron Qualls and I will send it out to you, and then you can comment back to me, and I can give Aaron the go-ahead. Okay. I think we may have covered our survey business. Let me ask commissioners if there's anything else you think we ought to be asking, or any other comments you want to make.
What are we getting paid for this? I worked harder in the past hour and a half than I did all day at work. Just kidding, boss, I'm just joking, but that was impressive work, you guys. I'm very proud of this team.
Okay, so the commissioners have spoken, and we will move on to our additional public comment period, which is. And I don't see anybody in the online audience for comments, so we will close the public comment period. Oh, Aaron Fitzgibbons, speak.
Hi. I just realized we have a meeting planned for the 20th. Did we already say whether or not we're going to have that one?
Nope, we're going to talk about the next with the planning calendar.
Oh, sorry.
And I don't believe we need a meeting on the 20th. If we all do our job with the email, and I think we're very, very close, we'll have no trouble approving the survey. So the consensus of the commissioners is that we can cancel the meeting on the 20th. And then we do not have a meeting until January 15th, if I'm remembering from our last commission meeting. That's when we have our joint meeting with the council, city council. 15th? 16th. Six p.m. Okay.
Excuse me, so just to confirm that, is at 6 PM?
No, it's not out. If they do it like a work session, it would be 6 to 7. But I believe last year.
I didn't
Yeah,
do that.
turn your microphone on, Mark.
I believe last year was regular agenda, which would be 7 PM, but as we get closer, we'll confirm that.
And we'll have a regular fourth Wednesday meeting in January as well, of course. Commissioner Dantzler?
Do we consider postponing that a week to the 31st, a week later, so that we could review survey results by that time?
I don't think we'll have survey results by that time. I think we talked about survey results by the 26th to SCJ, but I guess that's a question for Mr. Qualls. If the survey closes on the 26th of January, when do you think we'd have results?
We'd prefer to have a week to kind of summarize some of the results we found. Certainly, we can just provide the raw data, and immediately we can spit out a quick report and get it to you that day that the survey closes. We'd like to organize a little better, maybe tease out a couple of those qualifying questions regarding how many people answered that live there, and do a little bit of analysis first. But if you want just a quick spit out report, we can certainly just provide that to you if you want to see it the next day.
Commissioners, I think that we would give this report better attention if we looked at it once and it was the report that was already thoughtfully put together with all of the elements that SCJ wanted to put in there. Because I think if we look at a quickie one, we're not going to look at the other one as closely as we should. And that can be sent to us in advance of our meeting, of our February meeting, so we could absorb it and then talk about it in February. I'm seeing heads nod in agreement. Okay. Okay. I think we have concluded our business. Thank you all, commissioners and staff, for a very productive year, for excellent staff work, really excellent commissioner work, excellent consultant work, great input from our public. I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Meeting adjourned.
Happy holidays and Merry Christmas.